free power from the local radio station continued. This time we'll actually measure the power and show you it doing some actual useful work. Stick around.
W1VLF.
Hey everybody, my name is Paul, W1VLF, and welcome back to the lab. Well, continuing on our quest to disconnect from the grid. That's kind of a joke actually, right? But in the last video we talked about harnessing some free energy. Technically that's not true. Somebody's paying for it, but I guess not me, the radio station. And we used a voltage doubler and, you know, connect it to our large dipole. We were able to get enough energy to light 2 white LEDs, but made some changes. Most notably is to hack together really quickly a little LC network to resonate the antenna, extract more power. A bridge that's on this circuit board. A little better filtering, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 LEDs. And so what I'm gonna show is the power, the current, the voltage and current across each LED, and how many LEDs to match to the load impedance to get maximum power. I took a bunch of measurements with my fluke meter and voltage and current. With 1 LED lit, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you'll see that there is definitely a point of diminishing returns, or when you've matched to the impedance of this load to the impedance of the antenna system. It's not really impedance, is it? It's more resistive. But when you do that, you'll extract maximum power, and when you go further with only 1 diode, let's say LED diode, you won't extract nearly as much power. If you put too many LEDs, you won't extract as much power either. And of course, short circuit current will be maximum, but there's no voltage, so P equals E times I. With E being 0, it's 0 power. But somewhere in between a short and an open, you end up with maximum power transfer. And so that's kind of what this is about. And I'll get some real numbers too. And I don't know, I guess I was astonished. I'm not going to go outside and bypass the balun yet, because as you can see, it's pretty damn cold out there. So this may end up being just 2 parts, or it may be a third addendum. So with that in mind, let's go over to the ham shack, hook up the antenna. Oh, by the way, I've tried to minimize the amount of LEDs. Excuse me, minimize the amount of clip leads. You'll notice there's none here, but later on, I will have to use a couple of them, but this was a giant clip lead mess, and I took out one of these old prototyping boards. I actually had a lot of fun making this. So 4 diodes in a bridge, little filter capacitor, 5 what they call straw hat LEDs. They're more omnidirectional or broad wideband than the other ones I was using, and then an LC tuner. And then one other thing we're going to do is, here's a 15,000 microfarad capacitor, which we're going to charge up. And I'll do a real quick kind of a time lapse, because it does take a couple of minutes to fully charge this with the amount of power, limited power that we have available. But then when you discharge this all at once, it's, you know, you say, wait a minute, you gathered that from a local radio station? This is kind of akin to having the amount of power you can extract from that radio station is sort of like a dripping faucet. And this is the pan you put under it all during the night to catch the water. It's coming dribbling in at a very slow rate, and then you dump the whole pan out at one time, or discharge this all at one time. You get some pretty good arcs off of it. So anyway, let's go over to the ham radio station, that bench over there. I'll set the camera up, and then we'll do some of these experiments, and I don't know, I'll show you more stuff, I guess. Anyway, can't live without coffee. Be right back. Sophie, you comfortable? Can I get you anything? Go back to sleep. Okay, everybody, we're back here over at the ham desk, or ham station, and I guess using a white proto board maybe wasn't such a great idea after all. Unfortunately, everything seems to be washed out. Maybe it won't be the case when I put this up on the big screen, but I'll try to optimize it. Anyway, here's the capacitor. So you have an LC network, right? The antenna comes in from this small coax. There's a BNC connector over there. And here is the, it's an LC network. So first hits an L, then a C to ground, and then we take the two wires and go into this bridge. Try to get that up close. So there's 4 diodes in the bridge, capacitor, and here's the 4 LEDs. They're a lot brighter than they look in this picture here, so not unfortunately with the white background everything gets kind of washed out. But as I tune the tuner a little bit here, I'll tune the antenna off of resonance, and in a couple of seconds you'll see that the LEDs will go almost completely out, and then if I tune it back to resonance they'll come up again. And you can watch the voltage here. I think it's right now about something like what's that, 12.5, 13, a little over 13. And if I tune off, if I unresonate the antenna, it'll slowly drop off. Of course, there's that little capacitor in there, and that's holding the voltage steady. But as I switch it back on and the LEDs come up to brightness, the voltage goes back up to about, like I said, what is that? 13.5 volts, something like that. So not a whole bunch to look at here, but what I did do is I made an Excel spreadsheet over on the computer. Whoop. It's not, guess it's, I don't have it up right now. But I'll show you the voltage and current and the optimum amount of LEDs where we can get the most power out of this. And that graph will show. So a couple of things that I want to talk about here is when you put a short across this, you get maximum current but 0 voltage. So P equals E times I, that equals 0P. When you have a totally open circuit, and I'll pop these LEDs off and we can look at that. Okay, and as it charges up this one capacitor, it's going to go up to, I don't know, 27 volts I think is the open circuit voltage. So quite a bit of voltage coming off of there, but again a very limited amount of current. And that's where this capacitor comes in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set up the fluke meter to show the voltage across the capacitor and how it rises, and I'll also put my my phone up there so we can have a time lapse of how fast the voltage rises, and then we'll do a quick short circuit on the capacitor to see what happens. Let's see, how good does this thing work close in? Well, we'll have to see. So anyway, after a while you can see the voltage is now up to about 26 volts, and it'll get even higher than that. So let me set up for the capacitor charge test. Maybe now you can see this a little better. Yeah, without those LEDs on. So the LED string was over here, and here's the LED string by itself. So it's 5 LEDs. They're called straw hat. They're pretty much kind of an omnidirectional LED as opposed to a very focused LED. So anyway, that's the scoop. Let me get the capacitor thing going, and then we'll go over to the ham desk for a little bit of Excel showing the how to get maximum power out. The other thing I have not done, and you'll see why, is because it was only 2 degrees out here. It's up to a blistering 4 degrees right now, and about 20 mile an hour, 25 miles an hour wind. So the wind chill is still minus 10 or so. Anyway, let me get set up for the next test. Here we go. All right. You can see that the voltage is at essentially 0, and the timer is at 0, and I've got a short across the capacitor there. So we're going to watch this and see how long it takes to charge up. So here we go. I'm letting the short off now, and you should see the voltage. Okay, I think we're going to pause it right there, and we're going to do a quick discharge on this capacitor. So let me swing in that direction. You can see in about 6 minutes it charged up to over 30 volts. It'll take a long time, but it'll get up to 33 volts. So my open circuit voltage of 27 is actually incorrect. So I'm going to discharge this now. I don't know how well you'll be able to see this. Maybe you'll be able to hear it, but let's see. Maybe I'll put my hand behind it. So we're going to just do a quick discharge of this capacitor. It's welded on there now. So there we go. So there's real power there. Anyway, let's head over to the desktop and we'll just go over the analysis of lighting the LEDs and how to extract the maximum power. Hopefully this is just going to be a 2-part video, but if I get to go outside and take that balun out of the line and see what effect that has, I'll be back with that. Maybe later today if it warms up a little bit, or maybe I'll just make a quick third video with an update. So let's go over to the desktop. Okay, so what we want to do right now is we want to look at the power calculations to determine where we would get the most power. Now granted, we're talking about milliwatts here, so it's not a really big deal, but a couple of categories here: voltage, current, and power. And of course power is equal to voltage times the current. So these are just calculated out. So for a short, you get maximum amount of current, and we're talking about milliamps here. So 0 volts times 4.5 milliamps equals 0 power. I got a couple of graphs here too that I'll show you that'll make this a little bit more understandable. So the first, with one LED, this is the number of LEDs here. With one LED, we were able to get 3.9 volts and 3.5 milliamps. So we had a total power of 13.6 milliwatts. 2 LEDs was 6.6 volts, 3.1 milliamps. So now we're up to 20 milliwatts. 3 was 9 something, 2.75, we're up to 25 milliwatts. 4 LEDs in series. These are all in series, so you can see the voltage is going up, and the current is going down. So at some point, the voltage will go up so far and the current will come down so far that this power here, the 27 milliwatts that we see with 4 LEDs, it'll start decreasing. And that's exactly what happens with number 5 here. So 14 volts
across that 5 LED string, and only 1.6 milliamps, equaling 22.88 milliwatts. So you can see that it's dropped. So it starts off at 0 and rises and rises and rises and drops. And then, of course, if you just go open circuit, you see 27 volts. Actually, that should be 33 times 0 milliamps equals 0 watts. So let's just look at a chart here. Let's see, chart 1. So chart 1 shows the amount of power scavenged. This is like that jewel thief thing. A little bit, but on the left-hand column is milliamps. Right hand, the bottom is voltage across, and here's each LED. So LED 1, we're extracting 13 milliwatts, 2 LEDs 20, 3 LEDs 25, 4 LEDs 27, and 5 LEDs only 22 or 23. We're going back down. The next one would have been down here somewhere, and then of course with a short circuit, you have 0 voltage and maximum current. So let's go to the next chart because it shows it even better. It's kind of actually cool to show matching this load to the load impedance that's presented by the antenna. So here's milliwatts of power again, right? 13 and a half or so, 20 and a half, 24, 27 here at the maximum. And this one here, this blue line shows the amount of power available. Or excuse me, the amount of voltage. So 3.9 volts, 6.6 volts, 9.7. You could see it's rising here, you know, rapidly, or going up in a sort of a straight line because the LEDs are, each one is another single LED added. But you see the current is dropping off. So at some combination of voltage and current, you end up with the maximum amount of power. And that is right at this point here, which is the 4 LEDs. And, excuse me, let's see. 1, 2, 3, no. Yeah, yes. Right, you end up at where the voltage is 14.3 and 1.6 milliamps. Let me go back to that. That somehow didn't seem quite right. 5, right? Okay, so 5 is the point where it starts to drop off, and 27. So 11.8 volts at 2.35 milliwatts. Voltage is going up. Yes, the voltage for a 5 LED string went up, but the current dropped off so significantly that the actual amount of power, which is shown here, dropped off. So it's kind of cool. It just shows and you could probably figure out what the impedance is by this, or what the load, the driving force, what the you know, I don't know. The phone's got to ring right when I'm doing this. Stand by. All right. Sorry about that. It's one of those garbage calls that you get. Now that everybody's home, they're getting more active. Probably get 10 a day like that. Sorry about that. So again, the amount of power that we were able to scavenge is 27 milliwatts or 28 milliwatts, which doesn't seem like a lot, but as you saw in the capacitor demonstration, after 3 or 4 minutes, you can discharge quite a bit of power. And at night, when the station goes to low power, we end up only being able to grab, let's see, half a milliwatt at 12. I think it ends up being something like down here around 5 milliwatts of power. It doesn't sound like much, but I left this thing going in the LED array going over there on the bench, and in a dark room, it makes a perfect night light. So this is kind of like an RF powered nightlight. Anyway, I wanted to put this out there again. If I get a chance to get out and disconnect the balun and just run this large antenna as a vertical, top-headed vertical, see if I can get more current out of it. But for right now, we're getting about 27, 28 milliwatts of power. And this is all day long, so you could charge, larger banks of capacitors. Appreciate everybody sticking around till the end here, or whoever stuck around till the end. That was a pretty big assumption on my part. If you could please subscribe, that would help me out an awful lot. Let me know that people are actually watching this. And also, if you make a comment or something, I try to get back to as many as I can, but sometimes there's an awful lot. So again, please subscribe and give me a thumbs up if you would, if you thought this was interesting. This is Paul, W1VLF, saying 73, and we'll see you next time.